Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. As always, so very honored to be here with you today. I hope you are stepping into this day, leaping into this day, feeling optimal. I was going to say feeling your best, but what does that mean? It means something good, claiming the good, feeling like you are walking into the good, that there's goodness surrounding you. And there always is. The question is if we choose to see it or not. This past weekend, my husband and I and some friends had a really wonderful time connecting with people in the community of my happy place. There was a wonderful creatives fair, and many artists were showing their work and selling their work, and it was just the energy was perfect. People were offering their creativity, and there was a flow of folks coming to offer well wishes and make purchases, which was really lovely. And as we were a smaller group of us breaking bread together, I, as I often am, was inspired to offer a blessing for all of us. And it really was focused on seeing the goodness that is right there in front of us and claiming that and living in that and choosing for that to be what guides our steps, that goodness, that light, that connection that we have to each other. And when you remember that as you move through space, that your life is valuable, that your life has meaning, that what you do and how you live impacts other people, and it can be in the most positive of ways. It can help you feel connected. It can help you feel, if you are in a space of feeling isolated or being isolated, it can literally bring you in connection with others. Like one of the things that we did, which I like to do, is to touch each other, to hold hands, to touch shoulders, whatever it might be, literally to have human contact. And as you know, during quarantine, so many of us were while isolated. Well, if you lived by yourself, you definitely weren't in physical contact with anybody else. But also, we grew to be distant. It's safe health-wise not to touch each other when the pandemic was raging. And while that was important, that was difficult for people because being connected, being able to give someone a hug, being able to feel humanity, connect to humanity is really important. It's part of life. There have been studies that show babies in intensive care who are not held often do not prosper, do not survive even, because they need the human touch. We need that. We need to be connected to each other, at whatever age we are, to humanity, to one another, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, it really is true. And when we don't do that for each other, what happens? When we feel separated, when we feel disconnected, what happens? usually not the best thing, right? It can be tough for us to survive. So I'm a big believer in connection, in making the effort to reach out to others that we love, that we care for, that we feel are important in our lives, and to make a difference. So it's not just reaching out, but what do you do when you reach out? What does that outreach look like? What is important to you as you are engaging with others, and what can be important to them, right? That you make a conscious effort to spend time with other people, to think about what matters to them, not just what matters to you. And the focus today is something that I came across last week, something from a former President Jimmy Carter, who is an amazing being. I think he's almost 100 years old. He served one term as president, but has been a humanitarian for his entire life, giving to others, sharing with others, focusing on how to make the best connections possible. And he said something that I don't know when he said it, but someone chose to draw attention to it. And here's what he said: I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have, to try to make a difference. Strong, right? Let me read it to us again. Jimmy Carter says, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have, to try to make a difference. You know, what we do here on Dreamleapers is we break these things down, what people have said and what does it mean for us. So let's start with this one. I have one life. You know, when you're young, you often don't even think about that. You just think, oh, you wake up, you assume you're going to wake up. You take for granted that you got up, you were healthy, you were able to have whatever experiences that you had. If something happened that didn't work well, okay, whatever. There's always tomorrow. You know, the ignorance of youth, right? On the one hand, that's good because it helps people to be fearless and to make tremendous efforts to do things that they might otherwise not do if they were working through all of the potential consequences that may happen. I mean, there is something to be said for that ignorance of youth. But when you recognize, I have one life, I have one life, and what does that mean? With that one life, what am I going to do? With that one life, if there's no more than this, how am I going to make that life count? With that one life, how am I going to guide my steps so that I can be the smartest, the most in alignment with my beliefs, the most attuned to what matters to me and to the people that I love? When you think about the fact that you have one life, that is going to make a huge difference in terms of how you guide your steps. Yes, I think it's true. Now he says, and I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. One chance to make it count for something. So if that's true, if you have one life and therefore one chance, and I'm going to say every day that you wake up, you get another chance. I'm adding to Jimmy Carter, but literally, if every day you wake up and you have a chance to do something that matters, what is that going to be? What is that thing going to be that matters that you're going to have to do? What is that? When you wake up in the morning, do you think about that? Am I going to make a difference? That's what Jimmy Carter is saying, that every single day in your one life, you have a chance to make a difference and make what you do count for something. That is so powerful and so important. That one incredible moment that is you taking in a breath, you resonating with what what your being is telling you is important, you surveying the landscape of your life and deciding this is what I'm going to do today. This is how I'm going to choose to move through space. So for Jimmy Carter, the impact of that is fueled by faith. And I am certainly a person who believes that I don't even know how you live without faith, however you have it. But for him, he said, my faith demands that I do whatever I can. So whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference. So that means whatever your circumstances. And why is that important? Because sometimes we feel like, well, you know, today is not a good day. I don't feel well. A bad thing happened. Um, what's the list of things? There's so many things that could say to you, well, today I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm not going to do anything for somebody else. I'm not going to do anything great because I don't feel like it. I'm I'm going to just wallow in whatever the feelings are that I have because I had a bad day yesterday, or I woke up today not feeling well, or whatever that or is, whatever those things are that stand in the way, right? That wherever you are, whenever you are in that moment, the things that Jimmy Carter said, well, if you are feeling sorry for yourself, feeling not at your best, and you just say, oh, today I'm writing today off. Jimmy Carter says, no, you can't do that. If you feel like you're losing for some reason, you can't do that. So he says that my faith, his connection to the supreme being, however you understand that, demands, not says, demands, it's a very strong verb, that I do whatever I can, which could be really little. It could be helping somebody across the street. It could be calling someone in your neighborhood who would like a smile. It could be, supporting your next door neighbor. It could be taking care of yourself in ways that maybe you haven't been, but you know are important. Wherever you can, where are you? Where are you in this exact moment? And what does the moment call for? When you survey the moment, wherever you are, what is needed? If you have your eyes open to notice what is needed in the moment, wow, what happens? What happens is you can see what your role can be to make that moment count, to make a difference in that particular moment. And he says, whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can. So this man is almost 100 years old. And I can tell you, and why I can tell you this, and you can look it up for yourself, throughout his life, he has been giving to others. He has been supporting others. And why is that important? Why is the others, helping others, why does that matter? Well, the way I was taught, the way I grew up, if you live in service of the moment, in service of humanity, in service of the environment, what happens? The world becomes a better place. Like it really, really, really does work. If you open your eyes and look to see how you can be part of this beautiful world in which we live and how you can make a difference. If you look to do that, then it works. And that's what Jimmy Carter is saying, that with everything in his being, he has to try to make a difference. Now, the one thing I don't love about this quote is the verb try, because I feel like that trying, you know, uh, it's not as much doing. But in his case, I think what he's getting at is making the action of making a difference in these circumstances, whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can. You're going to try to make a difference. It means it may not always happen. It may be really hard. You may not be successful, but it doesn't mean that you don't give it all the effort that you can, right? That's what Jimmy Carter was getting at. And that is something that I feel is so important for us to think about. What can we do? What can we do to engage others to make our world better, sweeter, more loving? And what happens when we do that? Sometimes we feel like, oh, it's just so much effort. And guess what? Sometimes it is. I think the balance of effort is something else that we need to think about. So if you are constantly giving out, pouring energy out into a cause, a person, situation, and you end your day feeling depleted, that means that you don't have the balance right. So the doing whatever you can has to include doing for you, tending to your vessel, taking care of yourself, of your mind, body, and spirit. It's not just caring for others. It is the inclusivity of it starts with you. How do you care for you? So if you were to answer that question right this minute, how do you care for you? What would you say? How if you gave yourself if you gave yourself a grade on how well you take care of yourself, what grade would you give yourself if you were telling yourself the truth? So let's talk about what are the kinds of things that we can have on the list of making that grade. Did you eat well? Just yesterday. Let's look at yesterday as an example. Did you eat well yesterday? Did you drink enough water? Did you move your body? Did you think pleasant thoughts? Did you connect with people that you care about? Did you get enough rest? Did you make the choice when you got up in the morning to claim the day that it was going to be a good day for you? I want you to think about how you get up. What happens when you wake up? What's the first thing that you do? What's the first thing that you think about when you wake up in the morning? As you're getting out of bed, do you set an intention? Sometimes what people do, the first thing they do is to pick up their phone. Sometimes even before they get out of the bed, they're looking at their phone, looking at their messages. And I'm going to say I'm guilty of that sometimes too. So it's something that we do these days. But what do you do when you wake up in the morning? What is the first thing that you do? What's the first conscious thing you do? Like, do you stretch and open your body up to the goodness of the day and allow air and oxygen in? Do you do that? Do you fret? Do you start worrying about something that you didn't deal with the day before, something that's heavy on your heart? What do you do? I want you to seriously think about what do you do when you wake up in the morning? And can you think of doing something different? If you decide in your mind, your heart, your being, I am going to make a difference today. I'm going to do something that makes a difference. Why? Because as Jimmy Carter said, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. Wow, if you realize that, you think about that, then what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How can you make a difference? What if you chose one thing that you were going to do today to make a difference? One thing. What would that be? Pick one thing and then execute that one thing. And imagine what happens when you set the intention and you actually follow through on it. So, there's so many examples that I can give you, but I'm going to think of one right now. So for me, because I'm one of those people who's guilty of going like the ever ready bunny, I write on my list, the making a difference for myself, for my physical being, is often drinking enough water. See, and why I'm giving these examples is it can be little things, starting with tending to self, drinking water, and moving. So if I'm going to make a difference in my life, it starts with tending to the vessel. I do a lot for the spiritual part of the vessel, but did I drink enough water? Did I move my body enough? I eat pretty well. Did I do those things? If not, I'm going to do it every single day because that's going to help my body be strong enough for me to do the things that I want it to do, right? Who am I going to connect with? So my dear mother, who is today 93 years young, I'm going to connect with her. And every single time I connect with her, it's a moment of light. She cherishes every day. She makes a difference every day. She really does. In the place where she lives, like Jimmy Carter said, wherever you can, whenever you can. The people who work in the facility where she lives tell us all the time how much joy she brings to them. That she is making them smile based upon the things that she says, based upon her attitude, that her way of making a difference is bringing joy to every situation. Even if she doesn't feel well, you know, if because she's has limited movement at this point, she's not complaining about that. She's saying, I work with what I have. I do the best I can with what I have. And I'm pleasant with everyone I encounter. And what difference does that make? A huge difference for every person she encounters and for herself because she's igniting joy. And, uh, this happens in church, it happens in other spiritual settings, probably others as well. When you take a candle, you light the candle, and then you take your lit candle and light the next one, and the person lights the next one. That one flame that unites everyone. That is what her energy is like an endless flame of joy. And her difference making, just on a daily basis, is keeping her flame ignited and sharing that flame with others. How beautiful is that? And I'm not making it sound like poetry for any other reason that that's what it is. That's how she is every day. And so how are you every day? How would you say your energy aligns? What do you do when you're feeling unpleasant? What do you do when you're feeling grouchy? Have you figured out things to do to realign yourself so that you are better able to stay in the flow? So let's go back to Jimmy Carter. He says, I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. So I mentioned earlier, when you're young, you don't even think about the fact that you have one life. You just are living. As you get older, and like in my case, you have friends who are passing away, some younger, some older. You have people falling to illness and being seriously compromised. And you realize, oh, one life, and one chance to make it count for something. What are you going to make it count for? When you wake up in the morning, what are you going to make it count for? Jimmy Carter says, my faith, that connection to the higher power, that connection to all of us, demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference. That means everything. When you get up in the morning, Jimmy Carter's saying, go out there and make a difference, large or small. But if you set that as your intention, then you're not kind of wandering throughout the day. You're not getting distracted by something that isn't supporting you. When you live your life with intention, at the end of the day, you can look back and say, this was my intention and this is what I did to fulfill it, right? It's what do I say? The difference between living your life with intention, choosing to make a difference, and just going with the flow is immeasurable. It really is. What happens when What happens when you wake up and set an intention for the day and follow it is that you can see the course of your day. You can assess how you're living your life. Now, some people don't want to do that. They're like, they just want to live. I get that. But if you are looking to lead a life that is conscious, and I think anybody who's joining me here on Dreamleapers Inspiration is interested in doing that. If you want to lead a life that is conscious, then you have to make conscious choices. And that means staying in step with your awareness of who you are, where you are, and what's expected. I believe that means being connected in some meaningful way to others. And as we started, when COVID shut us down, those of us who are still here didn't allow us to be totally shut down. We can't be shut down now. You might have a moment. But that then goes to something that I learned years ago. What people tend to do when they're feeling down is to call someone and complain. Oh, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe that happened. That person did this to me. The ongoing loop of negativity is something that people often call others to complain. And then that grows and grows. That's the flame that grows that you don't want to grow, right? The flame of negativity can grow and expand like wildfire. One of the things I figured out years ago and make a conscious effort to implement is not to call people to complain. And if it starts, to just stop. It makes a difference. So it's, instead of calling to complain, who can you call who will help to make your light that much brighter? Who can you call who will help to buoy you, help make you feel fuller, happier, have more potential, as opposed to somebody who would be very happy to badmouth someone who you're mad at in the moment? What if you made that difference right now, to choose the positive and choose the positive person to help you be positive when you're not in that space, right? It's so easy to choose negative. It's so easy to slip into that. But if you choose the positive and choose to surround yourself with people who will help uplift you during those moments when you're feeling a little low, it can be incredibly powerful. So I'm going to give you one example. I have a friend out here who is funny. She uses humor in the best possible ways. And she does not talk about people. And I have watched. She will listen. She will help you evaluate a situation. If something is going wrong and you need to talk about it, because by the way, when I say choose the uplifting conversation, that doesn't mean you don't address the problems that come. But with this friend, I can speak for myself and say, when I am feeling troubled and I need to talk about something, she will talk with me about it using neutral words, non-judgmental words, when we're in the fire of a situation and I'm trying to figure it out. If I choose a charged word, she will come back with a neutral word. It's really, and I love language, so it's very powerful. But what happens is, because it's neutral language, you get to look at the situation for what it is, make an evaluation as to how you want to engage in the situation and move forward. And usually what happens is that crazy fire goes down and peace enters. For me, that's because I'm choosing to talk to someone who's not trying to stoke the flames of the fire intentionally. You have to choose your people carefully. Choose your confidence carefully. Choose to make a difference even when it's simply and powerfully about how you're going to look at a situation. Because when you do that, when you start with you, I'm going to see the situation as clearly as possible, as neutrally as possible, then you can move forward with the intention of making a difference, large or small. So I want you all to sit with Jimmy Carter's words. He is a man who has lived this. He's almost 100 years old, and I know when he leaves this planet, he will be at peace, and we are going to feel so much better if we follow his advice. So let's follow his advice this week. Follow his advice. Whatever we can do, whenever, wherever we are, choose to make a difference. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that Jimmy Carter's words and our unpacking of it will help you to make a difference in your life today and every day. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.